Greetings and salutations, my fellow Warcraft nerds. I'm John Bass, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to do another really in-depth character analysis on Varok Saurfang. We're going to take a look at his rather dark and depressing past, into the way that he became a really valorous hero of the Horde, the way his character development made him seem like almost a perfect candidate for the War Chief. And then the way that his active character development seems like it's taking a downward skew, which is very disappointing in my opinion, as Saurfang's always been one of my all-time favorite lore characters. As long as I've played this game, he's been a hero. He's been selfless and done everything that he could to save not just his people, but all the people of Azeroth. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, let's go ahead and start with our in-depth look on Varok Saurfang's early life, the more disturbing side of it, and then into what led him to a much more valorous future. Varok was born on Draenor as a member of the Blackrock clan, and was the younger brother of Broxigar the Red. Those of you who do know who Broxigar the Red is, he is the only mortal to have ever been known to have wounded Sargeras, like Sargeras himself. Broxigar and Varok also had an unnamed half-brother, sharing the same mother but different fathers. Shortly after Blackhand was named War Chief of the Horde 5 years before the opening of the Dark Portal, he named Varok, Eitrigg, and Orgrim Doomhammer as his lieutenants, and they helped oversee the Blackrock war machine as it was prepared for the war with the Draenei. Varok made the free decision, however, to drink the blood of Manaroth alongside Gromosh, and led all their forces into the sacking of Shattrath City. This blood curse caused them to do very disturbing, very, very dark things, guys. Around the time of the Dark Portal's opening, Varok's mate died and was burned in Nagrand. Having promised his mate that their son would not be exposed to the Warlocks or cross the Dark Portal, their son, who they named Draenosh, was hidden away in Garadar in Nagrand. While Varok charged into the world of Azeroth, commanding Blackhand's army like an unstoppable force towards Stormwind, never losing in battle until the Horde was routed at the end of the Second War. When Orgrim seized control of the Horde in the First War, he chose Varok as his second-in-command after witnessing Saurfang's efficient and brutal tactics on the field. During the Third War, Varok fought in the Battle of Mount Hyjal, witnessing Archimonde's fall to the Wisps, and after the demonic bloodlust had been lifted from the Orcs due to Gromosh's sacrifice. Varok helped tons and tons of veterans come to grips with their previous atrocities, ultimately saving the lives of many Horde soldiers. His own actions under the blood curse, however, continue to haunt him. As he stated himself, the sound of swine being killed when they are ready for slaughter remind him of the death screams of Draenei children, and older veterans like Varon are often troubled by the memory. It disturbs Varok so deeply that he refused to eat pork ever since. Don't get me wrong, however, Varok won't shy away from war, but he does seem like he refuses in all ways to participate in anything too aggressive, and that he will do whatever he can in his power to stop a warmongering spirit. I'm going to give a little bit of evidence about this during the Siege of Orgrimmar when we get to that point, but for now we're just going to continue on with the story as it stands. Saurfang being initially stationed in Orgrimmar, in the Valley of Strength, he enforced Thrall's rule and was kind of his first in command. But until the Second War of the Shifting Sands took place, after the events of the opening of the Gates of Ahn'Qiraj, Saurfang traveled to the front lines of Silithus, and he acted as the supreme commander of the Might of Kalimdor in the war against the Silithid and their Qiraji masters, Cthulhu included. Now, the events of Wrath of the Lich King were kind of hard for Varok, and I feel like this is another big part of where his turning point in his character came from. Varok being present during the Scourge attack of Orgrimmar and helping defend the city, continuing to show his heroism and valor, they insisted that he went and joined the front lines in the events of Northrend, and he was a direct subordinate under Garrosh Hellscream. He was one of Garrosh's primary lieutenants. During the Battle of Angrathar, the Wrathgate, the main entrance to Icecrown, his son Draenosh fell to Grand Apothecary Putris, and he was pardon me for the brain fart, but as I was saying, during the events of Angrathar, the Wrathgate, at the main entrance of Icecrown, Draenosh Saurfang fell to the Lich King and Grand Apothecary Putris, and adventurers brought Draenosh's shattered armor back to his father at the behest of Alexstrasza. Now, here's where it gets a little bit worse for him, okay? Once we fight his undead son, who is now known as Deathbringer, there's a couple of different potential outcomes at the end of that fight. The alliances seem much more harsh. Marden tried to stop Varok from getting his son's remains, tried to push him away, but Varian and Jaina took pity on him and gave him, his son's remains, let him mourn, let him grieve, which ended up a little heartwarming in the end, but it can show you how harsh the Alliance can be sometimes toward orcs and toward the Horde in general. Basically, regardless of your faction, they both come down to a sad father grieving over his lost son. Now, let's go ahead and fast forward to the events of Siege of Orgrimmar. Thrall mentioned that he would head over to Orgrimmar to find any orcs that wished to rebel against Garrosh, specifically being Eitrigg and Saurfang. Now, after arriving at the siege to fulfill the promise that he made to Garrosh many years ago, he met with Thrall and attempted to enter Orgrimmar, but was stopped by Nazgrim. General Nazgrim sent the Korkron army away and let the two orcs inside, but could not guarantee their safety. Varok followed Thrall to the lair of Hellscream below, but on the way he became rather injured in a battle against the Mantid, and insisted that Thrall continue without him, later being encountered by heroes seeking to destroy Hellscream and in his reign. He asks about the fate of General Nazgrim, and when we tell him, he's very, very saddened to hear of Nazgrim's demise, and laments greatly the loss of a great leader and warrior such as Nazgrim, and then retrieving his axe from the dead Mantid and returning to the surface. Varok didn't do a whole bunch during Legion itself, aside from kind of taking over for the orcs themselves, which, pretty effectively took place during the Warlords of Draenor expansion. But now we're going to get into some speculation. That I have about the future of Varok Saurfang and where his character development I feel like is going sour. So now let's go ahead and get back into some of the speculative aspect that Soul, and the speculative and character development aspect, I should say, that Soul and I covered during our stream today. It got interesting because he said some things that I wasn't really expecting. As I don't really have beta access or anything along those lines. I haven't done any of these scenarios yet. He enlightened me on a lot of helpful information. Varok allowed the attack on Darnassus to happen. He knew what the plan was, right? Which it wasn't very honorable in the first place when he was approached with it. And I'm sure that he knew that. I'm sure he realized that. But he decided to go with it. He followed through with this, allowed all the slaughter to happen, and then when it came down to it, and he had Malfurion mortally wounded already and on the ground, he couldn't finish the job. Now, I understand that there is a difference between loyalty and honor, but I feel like he should have just gone one direction or the other. I feel like Varok should have either just killed Malfurion, executed the plan, cut the head off the snake, and been done with it, and followed through with Sylvanas' cold plan in the first place, or he should have just contested her before she did it at all. He should have said something and suggested something different in the first place, but he didn't have any kind of argument that players are aware of whatsoever. It seems interesting to me the way that after that happened, then going to the battle for Lordaeron, when Sylvanas used the Blight, Varok just decided that he didn't want anything to do with it anymore. He just didn't want any part of this disaster anymore, of her warmongering, aggressive behavior. During this battle, and after he had given up, he was about to be killed by Alliance soldiers, but Anduin stopped them, and he decided to take him as prisoner, specifically because his father viewed him in a very positive, very fair light, saying that he fought with honor and that he was a very honorable warrior. I mean, that is very true, but when we take the scenario to go and break the Prophet Zul and Princess Tulanji, or whatever her name is, and Saurfang just denies you. He turns away his chance to do anything. If he gave up because of the way she's behaving, instead of contesting it, to me that just seems out of Saurfang's character, especially the way that he was a part of the rebellion against Garrosh. I understand that he was with Garrosh until the last second, but he still rebelled. He fought. He did something about it. But the way he just kind of rolled over and gave up when Sylvanas started doing too much that he disagreed with, I mean, think about that. He's a racial leader. He's the racial leader over the orcs. I feel like he kind of abandoned them under her leadership. I understand that they can kind of defect or whatever whenever they want, but who's going to be the leader of their rebellion? Definitely not Varok, especially the way he's just rolling over and giving up like this. Now, again, this is just my opinion, and I would love to hear your guys' feedback about this down below. You guys always have a really good perspective and outlook on my character analysis, followed by speculation. I've gotten some really, really good viewer feedback, video ideas, just specifically out of your guys' comments. I mean, it's been fantastic. It's been very active. I really appreciate what you guys have been doing, what you've been saying. I'm glad that all the editing work that I've been putting into visuals and improving my video and audio quality has been showing very well. And as always, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you support what I'm all about, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And most important of all, hit that comment section down below with all your thoughts and opinions on what I have to say. Community's everything to me here, guys, because without a back and forth conversation, I have no content to create. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. The link will be down in the description below, and I'll go ahead and post a link to SoulSoBreezy's page too, as I've mentioned my stream with him multiple times. I figure I'll give you guys an opportunity to watch it if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and be safe.